And we are live. Hey, thanks for dropping by here for Carnivore Scott and today's show. Well, today's discussion, whatever we're going to call this today, but just doing a daytime discussion here. I'm not sure who all is going to be able to drop in today or check this out at a later time, but for dropping in and for checking it out, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to go down this digital path to my front door. I hope you come in and join me. If you have any questions or comments, by all means, go ahead and put them in now in the comments section here. But if that doesn't work for you and you're watching at a different time, by all means, put a comment in on the video. I'll be sure to get back to you. I really do try to go through and make sure I communicate with everybody more than just a thumbs up and just a casual comment. Pretty easy to do now that I'm in a relatively small channel status. Now, how long that lasts, I don't know. I also know I probably need to go into my bag of tricks here. Not really tricky. Oh, didn't need my bag of tricks. I needed to go look over here on my shelf without an elf and get my hearing aids. I need those things, those hearing aid things. They really help me. Oh, well, we'll see. Maybe they won't help me. Maybe I was a bad old man and I didn't get them charged. No, it says I have them charged. Good. Great thing about these hearing aids is they're much smarter than I am. And so that really helps me with my diction, helps me hear the words. But I do have a couple of different things I want to talk about today. First thing I want to talk about today is my recent vacation with my really good, if not best friend. My wife is my best friend. I'm sure you all understand that, and many of you can appreciate that. But outside of my wife, I would say my next best friend or one of my top friends. I don't like to put rank order, but this is a person who I will drive 14 hours to go see in an emergency situation. If I would and could be considered as a donor for a kidney or bone marrow or blood, I would do that too. But so that's my friend. Oh, and I have my other little four-legged friend right there. That would be baby. Yeah. The other one is running around outside. But I went to go to my friend's retirement. Almost 45 years of federal service. 22 years and some change in the Air Force as a weather observer, forecaster. I think he started his career at Eglin Air Force Base, loading explosives on to aircraft. And then he went into the weather business. And eventually we crossed paths in 1997, and we've been fast friends ever since. And then he retired from the Air Force and went to go work in the same place doing pretty much the same thing. And it changes over time, but after 22 years and 4 months or something like that, he retired from that too. And I went to his retirement ceremony in Nebraska, and it was awesome. It was great to be included in such a great thing. I'm going to end up sneezing here, I think, in a minute. When I do, I'll turn this off. I am going to do that right now. Excuse me. Well, pardon me. Well, they make a mute button, right? Anyhow, went to this retirement ceremony. We did the driving, had a great time. My wife and I had some great windshield time. We're practicing that in retirement. I tell you what, one day I should do a video on coping with retirement after a high speed, low drag life or high drag, low speed life. But the working life challenges are unique. And then when you share it with someone, it's even more unique. And then when you go into retirement, there's some things you might not be prepared for. Hello and welcome. But today I want to talk about that vacation. It was great. I want to talk about iodine. I want to talk about salt. I want to talk about carbs and fats. I have questions. I don't have all answers. And I want to maybe share some studies and some videos that I've been watching over the past few days just to Just to add a point of reference, I also want to say thank you to some people. I didn't whether they're here or not, but there are a lot of great uh, folks out there in the carb or low carb, no carb carnivore space, and they're doing videos on a regular basis. And Limitless Lindy down in Australia, and she has done a wonderful job. She has lost so much weight, gained so much life. She's going to be coming to the United States for a big convention here in the not too distant future. And then there are other people all along the way who have been really good at presenting this way of living and the impacts. You know, someone like Jeremy and JT, the Poco Moonshine family, of course. You have Carrie at Homestead Howe and his daughters, Carnivore Kip. I'll be going to his event here in about a week and a half on the 6th down South Alabama. And then you have a carnivore. Who's your carnivore, right? There's so many good individuals out there, everybody trying to do the same thing. We're all working towards getting to a healthier version of ourselves through the application of diet as a primary pillar, not the only pillar, but the primary pillar. You know, life is complex. Life is full of mysteries because we don't understand them, mysteries because it's too difficult to understand without lots of education. You know, you watch Dr. Chafee, Dr. Berry. Dr. Berry makes it a lot simpler. I think that's why maybe he has 3 million followers. Dr. Berry does a great job of bringing it to the patient level. Then you have others out there who are a little more uh, scientific in their presentation. I think next level might be Dr. Chafee at times, you know, but Dr. Chafee, you know, and I want to say he practices in Australia. I could be wrong, but Dr. Chafee, he does a lot out there, and he's probably one of the most, as I heard from Dr. Rob Cywes. I have tough time. If you know how to pronounce that name, let me know. But Dr. Rob Cyrus, the carb addicted doctor, he'll say that that gentleman is the most, hey, carnivore transformer. How's it going there in South Africa? Things going down good down there in the Horn of Africa? I hope so. Um, but Dr. Cyrus would say that he was probably not Dr. Cyrus, but Dr. Chafee is probably the most dedicated, hyper um, carnivore out there, right? And then Dr. Cyrus really gets in the technical parts of it. I really like that. And of course, Dr. Benjamin Bickman and Dr. Dom D'Agostino. I mean, I could sit and listen to Dr. D'Agostino and Dr. Bickman talk for hours. And if you threw in a little bit of Robert Lustig and you threw in some Cyrus, I think you get this wonderful combination of providers. And then you got the heart doctors out there, and you have the neurological doctors out there. Lots of great information. So as I sit here in retirement perusing things, I just pick topics and I dive into them. But before I go further, how's the fish business down there, brother Graham? You doing good? I hope that the past week was good for you and that you were able to get some time off. Last time we spoke, I want to say it was a Saturday before last, and you had some uh, benevolence at work and got time off that you didn't expect. So I hope that you had a good time. I, I'll tell you what, because you're here, I don't know if you can be actively listening or not. I'm going to jump around in my show notes, and I want to talk about salt. Now, we all know about salt, and I'm not going to go into chemistry because I really don't. I can read the words everybody else puts out. Fish is picking up. There you go. Fish is picking up. We'll see. You're going into the fall for your area. I guess maybe the fish are on the run, going between migrational beds. I'm picking this out. You know, we're going into spring. You're going into fall. So maybe the fish are on runs, and that's good. It's good. But I want to talk about salt, Graham. I was watching some videos, just watching around. There's one, somebody by the name of Barbara O'Neill, Living Springs Retreat. And I would say it's probably more of a holistic channel. Anyhow, she was talking about salt and cellular stuff, and so I started looking at salt and looking at the various aspects of salt. And one of the things about it is what we get on a table. And do you get pure salt, or do you get pink Himalayan salt? Do you get salt with additives to keep it from caking? And what does all that mean? And then I found out that I knew it, but I hadn't really looked into it. Salt that they use in restaurants for gourmet purposes. And I said to myself, well, how about fish? Fish and salt and fishing, and how do they do salt mining and salt production? And so there's probably two major pathways. You can mine the salt from the ground, ancient deposits, or you can harvest the salt from the sea. And so I went and watched videos, and I watched a couple of really good videos, and I watched one from National Geographic. I'm going to sneeze again. I do not know what's going on. Oh, I know what's going on, but it's called spring. But the harvesting salt and then doing it in France, and they can make up to like $400, $500, $600 a kilogram for salt. Did you hear me, Graham? Did you hear me? Have you ever thought about salt harvesting, Graham? It could be a nice little side business for you. Oh, I got a little phone call coming. I wonder who's calling me. Huh. I'll tell them to give me, text me. There we go. But yeah, pollen season. You're right, and the fish are spawning. Thank you, Graham. No, I have learned, and I think I can do my own salt harvesting. Yeah. So you go to the ocean, you get a bunch of salt from the water. What you do, you get a big bucket, you fill your bucket, you take your bucket home, you filter the salt through a coffee filter, salt water, and then you put it on the stove and you boil it for a while. You reduce it, and then what you do is you reduce it further at a lower heat. So the first boil, rolling boil, 60 minutes to kill everything that's in there, all the bad pathogens, right? Plus, as the salinity goes up, it will kill almost everything in there anyway. That's why they use it to preserve meat. And then after you keep reducing it, and then you lower the heat, and you lower the heat, and eventually you'll get a salt brine that comes into salt, and you just stir it and kind of break the crystals up a little bit. And you keep doing that, right? And um, then you take it out of the pan, you put it on a baking sheet in the oven, break it up good because it likes to clump together, and you can heat it at 170 degrees, whatever the lowest temperature on your oven is, and you'll yield out a few ounces. So if you boil a gallon, you'll probably get a third to half a cup of salt out of a gallon of seawater. And since you boiled it, right, and you've heated it, and you've maxed out the salinity of it, there won't be any pathogens. And so you take the salt and you put it in your salt shaker, and you got your own. And people are making, Graham, hold on to your short and curlies here, but people are making a lot of money doing their sea salts. And now you can get more and more technical as you go along. I watched one for the guys in France, and they had the great big ponds, and they harvest it. And there's certain salts, like salt that condenses and falls to the bottom. There's your table salt, your coarse salt, kosher salts, right? And then it's salt because of wind action and heating and properties of crystal formulation. If the salt that floats on the water, if you go watch a video, it's very cool. And they'll scrape it off, and then they'll let it slowly dry for about a year, and then they make it into a little tin. I'm not kidding you. This cup full of salt could cost you $400. And so what happens is, as a salt, uh, there's a stirring and agitation of the water, the heating, the salt crystals start to form. And what they do is they form like an iceberg, a convex structure that's like a pyramid, right? And The as a salt as it forms, it has buoyant because it has all that little air pocket there. And then they come along and they scoop it up, and you keep that crystal like that. And then people they call it flake salt. And you can put that flake salt on your steak when you're done. And everybody go, "Oh, it's so wonderful," because it's not so dense. It's not like a full rock salt, break a tooth. It's very delicate and it disperses and gives that little crunch, that little je ne sais quoi to the food you're eating. And it's very expensive. And I watched a gentleman make some at home in his lab. What he did is he took sea salt. Like, let's say you took Redmond salt, already been cleaned, already been made good, table salt. You take the Redmond salt and you rehydrate it. You put it in suspension in water. You can take that Redmond salt, go through the process in your kitchen, and make your own flake salt in a matter of hours. Now, of course, that's labor intensive, but you can sell it for $2 to $3 an ounce. Wow. You can take 40 cents of salt, 30 cents of salt, and turn it into $3 of salt. That's almost worth your while if you want to do a little boutique. And then what this one gentleman was doing was he was taking the sea water, going through the whole boil process. When he got the salt, when he got down, he was cutting up garlic and thyme and boiling the garlic and thyme in when he was reducing the seawater. And when it got really low, like the concentration was really high, he scooped out all the garlic and thyme. So now the water infuses with the salt. And then he continued to do it. And the salt, of course, was darkened by the impurities in the salt crystals of flavor. And now he had garlic thyme infused salt that he could sprinkle on his food. You could do the same thing with smoke. You could buy the liquid smoke at the store, pour that in, reduce it. And that's how you could make your own smoked salt. You could take Redmond salt. You getting the picture? Put in your stuff, and then bada boom, bada bing, you've got your own, $300 a pound salt. And you can make it into flake salt, coarse salt, or table salt. All depends on the process, how patient you are. But, we all know how important salt is to our well-being. Well, why not make your own? Huh? What a concept. So I thought that was tremendously interesting. And I highly encourage you to go out and watch how they make salt or sea salt and how it's done by hand. And they do it in the salt flats. And when they do it in France, it's in a blue clay pools that are just a few inches deep. And they let the water in and wind and sun. And the guys out there harvesting it and making a minting money. Yeah, you can do it. Of course, then there's the iodine aspect of it, because now you're getting iodine, because if it's in the sea, it's going to be in the sea salt. And I have great questions about iodine. I've read about how people will put iodine on their skin for the absorption test. And then I've read doctors say, well, really what happens is iodine, I don't want to say it's volatile. I don't know if that's the right word, but iodine tends to evaporate off in the air pretty quick. And hey, Karen, how you doing? Good. Are you? What's going on? Are you aware of what time it is? Yes, it's 10:47 in the morning. So I'm calling it daytime, afternoon, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, yeah, we need iodine. Yeah, we do. So, but if you're trying to see how much iodine am my thyroid low? Am I low on iodine? Did somebody ring my bell? No. And they say basically we are. All right, I get it. Well, and there's a minimum threshold, I don't want to goiter. Yeah, but therapeutically, right? Well, if you do the iodine test, like people do patch test, it's probably fading more because it's just evaporating away. I don't think it really um, is an accurate measurement. Yeah. But the best way, they said, you get loaded with iodine and you do a urine collection for 24 hours. Got to do what you got to do, right? Or you can just add a drop or two of Lugol's iodine to your coffee, water, whatever you want every day. Now, here's my question. Remember, iodine is a great antiseptic and a great thing for sterilizing things. Like if you're in a country you're not sure about the water, you want to sterilize it, you put some iodine. They have a prescripted amount per gallon of water, right? If you put so much in a big container, you'll make it all better, right? So my question is, if you put a few drops in your water and you drink it, what does that do to your gut biome? Does it get absorbed in your stomach and in your duodenum and your small intestines? How effective is that Lugol's in raising your iodine levels? These are all questions I'm unsure about. And do we want to be do we want to be ingesting iodine and disturbing our gut biome, especially if that iodine isn't caught up in something like fish or whatever you might get your iodine in, salt. All right, got some great comments coming in. Let me go ahead and get to this. Karen, you're absolutely right. I'm not normally on at this time, but I decided to do it because the evening space gets pretty crowded with some great presenters. Speaking of, Robin's here. Hey, weird seeing me this early. Yeah. Well, Robin, I don't want to come up head to head with Dr. Chafee. He's he's eminently more qualified in every aspect except one. In every aspect except one. In presenting the carnivore community to the carnivore community. And the only one he's not imminent in is being me or being you. And that's not his fault. That's what I have to do. So I decided to come on now and do it now. And, there'll be some nighttime people that won't be able to participate, but I'll participate with them as we go along. Ah, yeah, you are not the only one. And of course, hey, Graham is here. That's great. You love him, Dr. Chafee, right? Well, Dr. Chafee is awesome, and he's a lot easier on the eyes than I am. I'm not denigrating myself, and I'm not, hyperventilating, having a Beatles moment with Dr. Chafee. It is what it is. The guy's done a great job with his life. It's conflict with Dr. Barry. Right, right, right. And that's one of the things I do like about the way this StreamYard is working. I'm going to put this up. I'm going to have this stream of consciousness, and people can come watch it or not. And if people get used to coming to it and seeing the variety that happens in our interaction, well, then, hey, we'll do it. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and copy the link, put it in the comments. There we go. And if anybody wants to join me, they can come in on that link. So yeah, Carnivorous Graham is here. That's right. Let's go. That's not why he gave me permission to hate. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Hey, I went one step further. I gave myself permission. Now, I'll be honest with you. I did go plan over this past weekend. I did a little vacation. Went to Omaha, visited with my best buddy. He's my Bubba, and I'm Forrest Gump, or the other way around, military buddies. And we were close enough to buddies that if anything happened to us when we were out and about doing military stuff, the other one of us inherited the kids for a while. Yeah. So I went to his retirement, and in that whole process, now he had pizza. Can you believe he had pizza for his retirement luncheon? Thanks, Chris. No, you know what I did? I just ate the toppings, just the cheese. Now, was it the best? No. Was the topping the best? No. But I didn't eat the crust. Didn't have any sweets. So I call it a win. I don't know about you. It's a win for me, right? Um, and then we did lots of restauranting, and they have a restaurant in that area of the country. I don't know if you all have it in your area. If you do, let me know. It's called Village Inn, like a little slightly upscale Denny's. Beautiful, beautiful pie counter. Oh, the hips I have put on with that counter. Anyway, I went and they have a breakfast called the VIB, like a VIP breakfast, but the VIB, very important breakfast. And you're able to pick from the breads and the fruits and the eggs and the meats. And I pick 2 eggs and 2 meats. So I was having 4 eggs and either 2 sausage and 2 or 2 sausage and 2 bacons, etc. You can figure it out. So I had that a couple days, and dinners were meat and more meat, burgers, but sometimes they come with mushrooms and onions, and I'm going to eat the mushrooms and onions. I don't feel bad, and green beans, and the green beans may kill me. I may die. No, I may die because I don't know, but they're gonna kill me a lot slower than that stinking side salad and those tomato and onion and cucumber salads I used to eat by the pound. The spinach I ate by the pound. So I don't do that anymore. I'm doing this stuff. And if you didn't see, I had my blood work come back. I had a post earlier, and my blood work came back really, really okay. I mean, taking Buttigal levels, nah. But my glucose was under 100. My triglycerides were under 100. My HDL was, like, it needs help. I need to exercise. But mainly everything came back pretty good. The only thing they didn't measure my insulin. That ticked me off, but that's okay. And then, let's see. I'll go in here quick. Dr. Chafee is not playing about those. Yeah, he's not playing about those. Hey, stay by, Karen. I see you in there. Too much pain in my shoulder. We have love to chat. Tendon issues. Ouch. No bueno on tendon issues. You got to really take care of that, buddy. Have you done any intermittent fasting, Graham? How you there, Karen? Good to see you. Yep, you're on, Karen. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's Karen, live and local, here with the House of
Oh,
Scotty.
yeah, you're funny.
Yeah, funny looking. I see, Robin, you eat the top. Yeah, eat the top. Now, it comes with a little bit of that sauce on the bottom. I'm okay with it. And then, speaking of that, Robin, I know you get out there, Robin, and I know you see a lot of different things going on. And one of the things I want to talk about was a recent video by Rob Cyrus. Cyrus? I can never say his name. How do you? Anybody know how to say his name? Bueller? Anybody? A matter of fact, I
I
got a
think it's Cyrus.
Cyrus. Okay, because I know it has a CYWES. Graham, maybe he's a guy down there from your neck of the woods. I want to say South African. I don't know if he practices in South Africa now. Every day, Scotty, with intermittent fast. Okay. Well, I was thinking about the intermittent fasting there, Graham, because of autophagy. And we'll talk a little bit more about that if you want to in a moment. I want to share this screen of mine here just so I can. Oh, really? Seriously? I'm getting commercials all over the place because, when you move the slider around, it wants to say, oh, no, you can't possibly be doing this. Let's see if I can share this, Karen. Let's see if I can present, share screen. Brilliant. Here we go. And there you go. So here's the video with Dr. Cyrus, EP363, A Brilliant Explanation of Insulin Suppression, Ben Bickman. And I guess the idea here is there's a lot of conversation going on now and research to delineate the difference between what is we have that. What is suppressing insulin, or is it because you just have insulin sensitivity? And they present a lot of similarities. And what they're saying may be a challenge for lean mass hyper responders. You got to run, Robin. Okay, you take care. All right. Thank you for dropping by. Oh, I hope you have him on too, Robin. By all means, by all means. He's a no nonsense guy. He's pretty like Dr. Barry, but a little more blunt. I think maybe he practices in Florida now. I'm not sure. See where's Seawares, Dr. Seawares. Seawares. Okay,
He
cool. Thank
says
you.
his name, but he says it kind of fast and it's hard to catch. I like him. I watch him quite a bit.
Yeah, I watched him for years, and I loved watching him when he had his doodly doodly doo wife on and the baby, right? And I think that was a great guy. I like doing things, but in his video, he was talking about this phenomenon about insulin suppression. So I guess in a long term, and in some people, they don't eat carbs and they're eating the protein and they're eating the fat. And for some reason, the insulin receptor signaling a receptor LPT1 or NPT1, I can't remember which one it doesn't necessarily work as usual because you are really low on ingesting sugars. So he really went into differentiating how the body deals with when you eat sugar and when your body goes through gluconeogenesis. So gluconeogenesis is in response to the body saying, I need sugar for my basal metabolic needs. You know, you have to have sugar in your body. I mean, you have to have glucose. And the body can make all the glucose. As we all know, you can make all the glucose your body needs for your brain, your eyes, and for your blood vessels, your blood cells, right? But the issue is when that happens, the signaling happens because you're not getting anything in your gut. So the liver goes to work on making the sugar, the glucose you need. When it does that, the insulin activation mechanism is so greatly reduced that the beta cells in the pancreas, the body is really responsive to environmental conditions and adapts. So just like for us, Karen, we stop eating all the carbs, and your body says, "I'm hungry," and it starts to turn on, upregulate through epigenetics the production of ketones. Right? Then our brain is good, our heart's good, all the things it need and can use ketones are happy. Well, insulin has a lot of things it does. Matter of fact, Dr. Cyrus was saying that, um, sugar, glucose, I don't know what the right word would be, glucose maintenance may not be actually the major thing that deals with insulin or the major purpose. It's not insulin's major purpose, but that insulin has so many other important things, particularly for bone health and lots of different things, a lot of signaling. So when we actually uh, suppress our insulin production, there may be a backside to that that isn't as positive as we think it is. Now, I'm sure it's on a continuum. When you've been unhealthy and overweight for decades and your pancreas is just tired, right? Maybe it's a good thing. The beta cells can calm down, inflammation calms down, but it may not be an end state. And if you're eating organ meats, you're actually ingesting glucose, and therefore you get the receptive and the mechanism through the gut does keep the pancreas doing things. So the pancreas is used to making the glucose. Anyhow, all that being said, tremendously interesting, somewhat difficult to follow. I think Rob gets ahead of himself sometimes. He really starts talking. So he means to be talking about glucose, and he's talking about insulin. He means to be talking about lipids, and he's talking about glucose. So he kind of, and I don't think
He thinks he's talking to people that are on his same level, not the average Joe.
yeah. I agree with you there.
And
So
I'll give you a little pushback on that, Scott, because Scott, Dr. Chafee says that our bodies naturally produce the needed 4 grams of glucose that at any
Yeah,
given time.
I agree.
And anything over that 4 grams is bad. Now he explained it more than that, but I'm not Dr. Chafee, and what he basically was saying, paraphrasing, is more than 4 grams is bad. So you shouldn't eat any. But
So I'm in absolute agreement with you. I heard him say that, and I understood him to say what you've just said. So I don't refute that. I'm talking about insulin. So insulin is real important for us for a lot of processes in our body. And insulin has, I mean, I could see, and I'd love to ask Dr. Chafee or Dr. Whoever. I don't know if we have any other endocrinologists, maybe Dr. Lustig. It'd be interesting to say above how much insulin does the body need to produce on a daily basis to handle the 4 grams of glucose that you're talking about, or whatever the glucose amount that it needs, and how much of that is percentage of that the body needs of insulin throughout the day. So I'm saying if I were stacking it up in a bar graph, right, I would say insulin needs for glucose transport and movement around the body and doing things with glucose may be X. But for all the body's needs, you may need 4.5 millimolars per deciliter. You know what I mean? So there's a subset for glucose purposes, and then there's another set for other activity in the body. So when we work and focus so much on reducing our insulin numbers, right? Are we, if you do it long term, I'm saying, if you're um, overly fastidious about, and what are the confounding things? Like if you take Dr. Chafee, Dr. Baker, right? Those guys are not normal. I'm sorry. I'm just going to put it out there. If you're doing a bell curve distribution, they're a couple orders of magnitudes on either side about being strict adherence to the carnivore way of life. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah, and part of that I think is metabolism too. They're just naturally lucky to have those bodies.
Well, but they also work real hard as far as like
Yes,
exercise.
they do, but I work hard too, and I could never get there. I mean, they're the people. They're my cousin Patty that I watched all my life eat everything in front of her, and she was never bigger than a bean.
But yeah, you're right. She
And
has genetic. She has some genetic advantages.
to the
Eh,
that their metabolism just goes faster. It's just a fact because metabolism they measure is a wide range. I don't know
Right.
what the numbers mean, but I know I had it tested and they said that normal range is from the number 5 to the number 13. Well, that's a pretty wide range. Well, I was a 5.5. So I was in that normal range that I didn't need medication or anything to boost my thyroid, but I was a far cry from 13. So somebody else that's at 12.5 is going to easily burn more than I can just because of the way we're made.
Oh, I don't disagree with you at all, and I submit, hey there, John. I submit that the complexity is far beyond my ability to understand. However, like I got a guy down the street, beanpole guy, just like you were talking about, someone who can eat everything. We go to the buffet, can eat everything, do everything. But as I'm learning more and more, I'm thinking the guy has a suppressed insulin situation in his body. So he eats the sugar and the body says, well, I don't see it. I don't recognize it. And then it passes through his GI tract, right? His
And that's
body
the
isn't
opposite from all of us that are trying to lose weight. His is the opposite end.
right. But the question I then have to ask is that really long-term healthy? It may be, but it may not be. And there's a lot of different factors in there. There's some confounding factors, right? But like his
Although
hips are really bad. His arthritis is really bad. So his bone health is suffering from his insulin insufficiency.
I will
My
say
my
this,
my
cousin Patty's dad, he was the same way, and he was a salt nut. He's
Mhm.
one of those people that if we'd go out to eat, they'd bring his food, and he would salt shaker before he even tasted anything. And I got a
Mm.
funny story. My dad used to shake his head and say, "How can he put all that on there before he even tastes it? He doesn't know how it tastes." And one time, now we're talking back in the 60s, some stupid kid had loosened the salt shaker lid, and he went to put it on his food and the whole salt shaker. And my dad, I can still in my head, and I was probably maybe 8, 9, 10 years old. I can still hear my dad laughing because he would always tell Bud, taste your food first. But Uncle Bud lived to be almost 102.
Right.
He died 2 months before his 102nd birthday.
Yeah, a good full life. So I mean, it goes to show the complexity. I mean, I think I try to count it up one day, and I guess I will one day. I'll take some averages, but if you think of the total number of cells in your body and the total number of chemical reactions going on in your body and the interaction with all your gut biome, right? There are literally billions and billions of things going on every moment in your body, right?
And we
And to
make it
think,
harder on it by the crap that we eat.
well, yeah, but also,
The processed stuff, I mean,
oh
the
yeah,
our modern food, our big agriculture that we have to live with now. That's
right.
what's making everybody sick. It's like Carrie said, it's why everybody's got gut problems and why because they're putting stuff in there that our body's not supposed to have. And it goes
Well,
back to what you were saying before, I think, and that's the bridge between the two, where when I said I'm going to push back on the 4 grams, I think
mhm.
the bridge between the two things is the variables that are different for everyone because everybody abuses their body in a different way with their foods. And like
Mhm.
what I eat isn't what you ate all your life. So my pancreas and liver has taken different abuse, but it's all abuse in the end.
Yeah, you
So,
have yeah, you have that, you have the environmental factors,
mhm,
like, John's up
forever
there, you know,
chemicals, what's in the
cold.
air where
Mhm.
you live, what you breathe, all of that stuff is all of those variables I think contribute, but I think that's the basic bridge is if everything's working efficiently and you haven't abused those organs all your life, then maybe the process of the body working isn't so hard. We make it hard because of the crap we eat.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you, but I was going to the point of saying the difficulty for us and for the medical profession is billions and billions and trillions of interactions going on, and we think, "I got it." Right? You know what I mean? It's so complicated, and then you throw, like you said, the environmental things and the behavioral things, and a smorgasbord of chaos, and we're saying, I want to mold my chaos into what I believe most of us want. We want time, and we want it to be, um, actionable, valuable, usable time. That's what I think we're doing with our health. We're trying to preserve time. Like when Carrie says a proper human diet, and Dr. Barry says returning to health, right? And so I think that that's part of our challenge. John, you up there, you got the kids off to school and doing stuff. Yeah, salt not necessarily the issue. The type of salt. Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and hit it. We can all read it together. The type of salt long to distance that promote. Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think that there's in all of that, John. I think there's this discussion, as Karen is saying, is that we have a complex system, and we add things to that system, and things are going on, and what can we do, and the constancy. I mean, Karen, I know you've been at this for a minute. I know you've been on the struggle bus with weight for quite a bit of time, and then of course the emotional traumas that you've gone through. I know the same thing for John. I know even now Graham talking about the tendon issue, the tendonitis, and me with my fatty liver and all the other things, and we have all these issues we're contending with, and the stress they bring. And bottom line is, um, we can't rest on our laurels, so to speak. I mean, don't you kind of think that the devil is in taking a break and trying to trying to say I'm doing good when we're not doing anything at all?
You can't take a break, but
Right.
you can do a controlled relaxation is what I would call it.
Huh.
I still after 9 months almost it struggle with potatoes. Everything else I don't care about. I had to go to Walgreens the other day, and I walked right through the middle of the Easter aisle through all that Easter candy, and I could have cared less. I didn't even want it. It's bad. I know what it did. So I think I've grown past that, but I'm still on the struggle bus with the damn potatoes. I just can't. But
Well,
I'm not, and this is also part of what you were saying before.
hmm,
I don't pretend to be the carb police.
right.
If there's a few carbs in something, I try to use my 5 gram rule.
Uh-huh.
If something has more than 5 grams per serving, then I try to not eat it. But every once in a while, we went to Red Lobster. Yeah, I had some fries. I ate one Cheddar Bay biscuit. But
Eh,
all the bread I've had since March 29th of last year has been 3 Cheddar Bay biscuits. Very controlled.
amen.
I know they're
Amen.
16 grams. I can eat one with a few fries and still be under 30, which is good keto.
Right.
So you have to do that. I do anyway, for my peace of mind to prevent a binge. And
That's a
that's why carnivores worked.
Yeah, that's the absolute truth. And I was talking to my wife. We had a long drive this past week when I did my little vacay to my buddies, and it's about 850 miles one way, so that's a good amount of
That's
windshield
not a
time.
little drive.
Yeah, and me and the wife were talking. She gets tired of hearing me talk all the time about dietary stuff and scientific stuff because that's my passion. And but I was telling her and trying to broach it to her. She doesn't celebrate the way I'm eating. She doesn't necessarily join me. She doesn't necessarily, but she doesn't work against me. And her blood work suggests that she might want to be joining me. I'll just leave it at that. But the idea of it all is that I was telling her about the freedom of food, like you were saying, Karen. I walk down aisles now and I see candy. You go to the gas station, you stop at the gas station, you go hit the latrine, and I get some more to drink. I used to get lots and lots of coffee. Well, now what I do is I get my thing full of water. I carry tea with me, and I drink a lot of tea.
Yeah,
And
if you're desperate, you can get a beef stick.
Right. Well, I don't get desperate because I plan, but
Right.
the and because of carnivore, right? If I get caught not prepared, even though I keep 2 cans of sardines with me anywhere I go, I um I went ahead and walked by all the donuts, all the beef jerky. Now I did buy a container of 4 eggs because even with the chemicals they use to preserve, I'm better off having the 4 eggs than I am about having, a Big Mac. So, hey, thanks for subbing to Karen's channel there, John. That's a good deal.
Thank you.
Um, but the idea is that freedom from food. But now I've been dealing with one. Now this is me just being full disclosure. Um, I used to drink very heavily. I drank heavily and I drank fairly frequently. And then I stopped, young men become an older guy. I stopped all that nonsense, but I still would have a drink here and there. Nothing crazy, not doing anything wrong or illegal or immoral. But how could I, how could I possibly, um, some Hilton trying to call me. I don't want any Hilton. I want nothing with that. But how could I possibly complain about having a fatty liver and know that when you drink alcohol, all that sugar in the alcohol, according to the alcohol sugars, get converted into fat and stay in your liver, right? That you really shouldn't say I'm addicted to something and then continue to do it and expect too many sympathy points, right?
Not to
So
mention how hard it is on your liver because it can't do anything else. When it's
right,
processing alcohol, it can't do anything else.
right. So the whole idea is I went ahead and I've been abstaining absolutely for a while, and I think I'm starting to see the results. But the important part was, even when I was stressed, even when I was at Buffalo Wild Wings or at another place eating wings, because that's what I ate is wings without sauces, cooked in tallow. When I ate those wings and all that beer and alcohol going around me, I wasn't bothered. It wasn't like I sacrificed something. I was just like, I don't want to partake. I'm in control of my ship. I'm the captain of my ship, and I'm not having it because I don't want the repercussions. And being able, even after the fact, so now sometimes it's before the fact. No, I don't want that because I don't want to feel bad. And then I go to the I even forgot I could if I wanted to, and I don't want to, right? Very freeing, very emotionally empowering. No
Right?
problem, John, for that title. You betcha.
That's
Ah,
why I
so
find keeping a little variety helps for me. I can't do and I it seems like the men have the ability to do it easier, just stick with pretty much the beef and
mhm,
salt and nothingness. But I can't. I have to I don't want any veggies or anything like that. But if I eat something like I have these little banquet breakfast sausage links.
right.
Now I have a history of GERD, and sausage patties have a lot of sage, and sage is a trigger for me for my
Oh,
GERD.
okay.
So I stay away from sausage patties. But for
Mhm,
some reason, they don't put that much. It's very little what they put in the links. They taste different.
yeah,
So I eat this sausage links and some eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. That's what I've substituted for my side dish
there you
instead
go.
of rice or potatoes or because you can make eggs so many different ways.
Yeah, matter of fact, I saw someone make some the other day. I don't normally stop on the channels that I don't stop on a lot of food channels because I'm not gonna spend a lot of time, uh, uh, uh duplicating them. But I saw a guy doing the thing on eggs, and he made the cloud eggs. Have you seen those before, Karen?
No, I have not.
So basically, what he does, he separates the eggs, the egg yolk and egg white. He makes a meringue. He whips up the egg whites and gets them pretty stiff. Puts them on a cookie sheet. He just puts them in piles, and then puts a little depression in them with a spoon. He
Mhm.
bakes them in the oven until they're basically done, 350 for
Mhm.
12 minutes, whatever it is. And then he takes the egg yolks and he put a egg yolk into separate little dishes, right? Like little saucers. And
Right.
he pours the egg yolk into the depression. He puts it back in the oven for just like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, right? And then it's like an over easy with none of the white runny. And you got the flavor, and you can in the meringue, you can mix in whatever flavor. I wouldn't use sage if I were you. But but he and then
No.
you scoop each one of these cloud eggs off the baking sheet, and you just put it on your plate, and you can have the great big I mean, the whip up, you know how a meringue is, it gets pretty stiff.
Right. Oh,
It's a
I've
fair
seen
amount of
people
work.
on the cooking shows, the baking shows, make things similar to what you were saying, but they do it like in little peaks. So
Yeah,
it looks like the poop emoji, but it's meringue, and then they
yeah.
bake that, and they use it for like decorations on baked items and things.
But instead of doing the emoji swirl, you just hit it with your spoon, and then you
Right.
put an egg in there and cook it. Now that might be something different, a different texture, variety. But
Now,
Karen,
see, to me, I love eggs so many ways, and I'm fine with them. I'm good at my over medium. I can flip an egg and probably 95% of the time not break the yolk.
Right.
So that sounds like a lot of work to me making the meringue, you know. Just throw it in the pan and let it swim in the either butter or I cook mine with bacon grease. I save my bacon grease, and when I make my eggs, I cook them in bacon grease, and yeah, they're swimming. But so what?
So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, when you said you have to have variety, but you don't but simplicity still rules the roost there, you know? Not you don't need variety at the expense of simplicity.
No, but if something's got a couple carbs in it, I'm not gonna beat myself up over it because
Right,
I
yeah,
had so many other wins. And if you will indulge me for a moment, I was
sure,
getting ready to think about making a video here in the next day or two because I finally got a way to do it inside, although spring is here. But we've got 20-mile-an-hour winds today, so I'm not gonna sit outside and do it. But my 1 year since I started recording anything was March 29th, since I actually started trying to do something. And
was
it
that out at a
began,
was that out at a picnic bench? I think I watched that one.
um, I think I was sitting out on my deck when I did
Okay,
that one. Um, but yeah, that was the whole story how it began. And because I was so uncomfortable and I felt fat and I felt big and my clothes were tight and I just needed to do something. And I'd lost my daughter and I was having a hard time taking care of myself, and I'm
right,
sitting here thinking, what's going to happen to me the older I get? This isn't going to get better, it's going to get harder. And
that's
what's
right.
going to happen to me? And so I had to become the captain of my own ship, and that's when I started the loose keto. It wasn't too bad. And so then one day I was watching videos on keto, and I found Steve on uh oh crap, I can't remember his channel right now. But he was the first person I saw doing carnivore, and then YouTube started giving me keto, and then it started giving me carnivore videos, and I saw Carrie, and he was like on day 90, low 90 something,
Mm,
91, 92, somewhere around there.
right,
And I think the title of the video was "I lost so many pounds just eating meat," and I went, "What? You can just eat meat?" And I like immediately went, and it was hallelujah. Um, so I watched it and I went, "Oh, I can do that. I can easily do that." So I switched on June 25th to complete carnivore. But when I started on March 29th, just started anything, I was 287 pounds. And
okay,
I know I had probably lost a little bit prior to that before I actually started writing it down.
right.
But I don't know what that exact number is. So I'm going with 287 was the first thing I wrote down on March 29th. So I just weighed myself this morning and I am at 193. I'm
Amen.
6 pounds away from the 100. Now, it's
Man,
not conceivable that I can do 6 pounds in 3 days, but I might be able to do another one or two, and then I'll be within 5 pounds. But where I'm at now is a win. That's a
heck
win.
yeah.
I can't beat myself up for 6 pounds. Oh, you didn't make it. No, I did make it. I made it because I feel so much better.
And
My clothes are hanging off of me.
it could well be that in weight loss, you met and exceeded your goal, but because you're eating, so much more protein and by nature, if you eat a lot of hamburger, right?
Not too much anymore.
But did you eat a
I
fair
eat
amount?
I eat I ate a lot of burgers before, but
Okay.
since I've done carnivore, I eat more steak. I eat a lot of chicken. I like chicken. I can bake it. or I can fry it in the tallow. So see, there's your
Right.
variety. You can make it a couple of different ways, and then once it's cooked, you can make some mayo out of bacon grease and have a little chicken salad. You
Right.
know, there's things you can do if you're a little creative without
Well,
putting a lot of gunk in there.
well, the reason I brought up the burger is particularly when you have a lot of a burger and I want to go with the pardon the thriftier burger.
Mhm.
You're getting a lot more cartilage in that burger, and
Mhm.
therefore you're getting a lot more of that different protein that is escaping my mind, collagen, right?
Yeah.
So in getting that collagen, so between the protein and the collagen and the good fats, I dare say if you had the ability to get a really good high quality a body composition test, you've probably put on 5 or 6 pounds of muscle weight in the year.
That
You know what
very
I mean?
well could be.
So you're that's what I think they're trying to tell us in the carnivore community by the influencers is maybe the your initial weight goal, inspirational as it is one of those things that you modify to the end that when you stick on it for too hard, you're denying yourself health because hey, adding on muscle mass is imperative at our age, Karen. We have got to get as much muscle mass as we can get on us as we go into our declining years because it's necessary for a lot of things. And
It's rapid loss in old age.
yeah, that osteopenia is a no bueno. So again, eating the protein, synthesizing the protein, getting the HDLs up, all important for so many things more than looking sexy in my t-shirt, right? Yeah, I mean, and that's those days are gone. Now anymore. I'm not worried about a Dunlap. I'm not worried about Carpenter's disease. Where my chest is in my drawers. I'm not worried about that anymore. What I'm worried about is functional health.
Mhm.
I was listening to a young man who did a video today. He had one out. I have to look back at my history, but he was talking about he had a medical issue. It's carnivore in 24. He ended up going to the hospital because I guess a year ago he had a heart attack, and he'd been losing weight and doing really good with it. And anyhow, the idea is that he was driving down the road and he had a non-scale victory this week. Not only just did he lose 4 pounds, but the a Bible fell off his lap onto the floorboard, and
Oh my.
reflexively, he bent down in his car and he was able to pick it up off the floor. And he says a little light went on because he hadn't been able to do that in a long, long time, right? You'd have to kind of wait till the car stopped, get out, and reach down and get it, right? So
Right.
non-scale victory of being able to move. Well, I want to be functional. I want to be able to play with the grandkids, play with the dogs, chop wood, do the dishes, vacuum. Like yesterday was supposed to be mopping day, but we'll do it. We'll do it tomorrow.
I'm listening. I gotta go off camera for just a hot second, but I'm still right here.
All righty. All right.
I
Thank
got a
you.
cat that needs to go outside.
Yeah, you got to go. You got to go. So yeah, but functional ability is really the focus for me. I'm going to be 62 finally this year. Woohoo! 62. And in I was just figuring out 40 years ago this month, I went on delayed enlistment with the Air Force. And to be able to do that, I had to make weight, and my weight was 200. My weight max was 236 pounds. So 40 years ago, even if for a brief moment, I weighed only 236 pounds. Now I'm 6'5". So that was a thin me. I was a thin man. Some people thought I looked like a skeleton wrapped in toilet paper because I'm big boned. And but I want to see if I can get anywhere near 240 pounds by the date I went active, and I went active on November 20th. So April, May, June, July, August, September, October, and half of November. So I have like 7.5 months to try to lose 50 pounds. 'Cause this morning I weighed in at 287. So if I lost
You're
50,
at where I started.
uh, yeah, that clicked in my mind. If I can lose 50 pounds in 7.5 months, that's less than 10 pounds a month. So that should be achievable if I exercise. That'd be my one. I'm just not doing exercise.
I've done all mine with no exercise.
Well,
None.
so
0.
well, I mean, if you look at like, don't look at the bug bite I have here, but I have pretty good definition in my arms now. And I'm a fairly big fella. My belly's my big problem. My legs a little big, but being 6'5" and 287, I'm not upset. But I need to start exercising. And then if I were to exercise, I could eat a little bit more and then lose more weight and revolumize. I used to be somewhat strong. Maybe I can revolumize some muscles and help to metabolize the stored energy. But I'm kind of thinking that might be a lofty goal, but a goal nonetheless, to see if I can get down to the weight I was when I went to basic training 40 years ago.
See, I was talking to my friend the other day, and I was telling her that I had got down to 196, which was 9 pounds away. So I got to that past that 197. So that was my 90 pounds. And I was talking to her about it, and it it the scale just isn't that important anymore. I check it just because I've fought this my whole life, and
Right,
I need that peace of mind to know I'm not going in the wrong direction.
right.
The number doesn't matter. It's just I can't backslide, and I have to have that insurance policy,
Sure.
which is the scale telling me that you're okay. You're okay. You're on track.
You know,
But
I got I got that with my blood work, and John, you asked me about what some of those numbers meant, when I posted about my blood work, and the idea is that my concern is with fatty liver, and my doctor thinks I may have portal vein hypertension, and portal vein hypertension is a no bueno situation. It's when the portal vein is the main artery that meets up with the within the liver, with a couple other mesenteric
right,
arteries and stuff, and it's where all
that
the
thing gets
fat you eat
blocked up.
dumps. It actually it comes up and it meets and it pumps, well, actually this way, into the liver. It dumps all the fat from the lymph into the liver where it gets mixed up. And since the liver is not like, the lymphatic system is not like your cardiovascular system, it doesn't work on a higher pressure. It works on very low pressure. So with my liver being infiltrated with fat and my pancreas being swollen too, what's happened is it's caused the pressure to rise in that portal vein, and so it's expanded. And when that expands too much, and some other things happen, you get the thing called varices or varicose, basically like a varicose vein in your throat and in your abdomen. You get these big pockets, and if one of them breaks open like an aneurysm, you're done. You're toast. You're out
Wow.
of there. You bleed out pretty quick. Because so you can understandably, I'm concerned about this. However, all the biomarkers like my AST, my ALT, the liver biomarkers, my insulin, glucose, triglycerides, blah, 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 all point to a healthy liver, if not a fatty liver. And so I'm hoping that my stature means that um, that arterial size is within the norm. You know what I'm saying? How they like this is a normal and that's a normal. But when you're 6.5 feet tall almost, you're not normal.
No, and I don't
So
think that when they do their testing and studies that they take those fringe variables of like the demographics, which is the body makeups and the people that are on the fringe. I mean, in every other way you're normal, but your size is not in the average. It's
right.
not in the average. It's just out of it. So, yeah, I don't think that their data and all of their testing and studies take those people into consideration, so you're just kind of flying blind.
Yeah, like I always had a bone to pick with the body mass index, right? I mean,
Right?
my wrist is so large, and I don't have a fat wrist. You can see the muscles and the tendons in my wrist and my hand. My I cannot. There you go. I cannot put an Apple Watch or one of those uh, biometric watches. They don't
Mhm.
fit on my wrist,
Yeah.
and so I am big boned. Matter of fact, I sat in a plastic container, and they measured my breath to get my basal metabolic rate. My basal metabolic rate at 300 pounds was 3,200 calories a day. And there's no way I'm eating 3,200 calories a day, right?
Right.
So the idea is um, I don't fall in the spectrum, and I'm hoping that not fall in the normal spectrum because the normal size range for the portal vein is 1.3 centimeters, and mine's 1.6. And they did a re-evaluation and said, well, actually, it's somewhat bigger, and it went to 1.5. So mine is still over the somewhat bigger range, but I didn't see them measure. Like, I wonder what Shaquille O'Neal's portal vein range is. So if you're talking about 6.5 to 7.5 foot tall people, they already said your organs are bigger. So my liver's bigger, my spleen is bigger. My lungs are so big that they couldn't fit on one x ray. Back in 1985, when they tried to take pictures of my lungs, they had to take two pictures. The x ray machines back then weren't big enough to get all of my lungs in one picture, you know?
Right. So despite everything that they say, you know what your size is and you know what you've experienced, and they just don't take that into consideration. And I
Right.
think what you just said is totally valid because a guy that's 6.5 or 7 feet tall is just naturally going to have bigger insides. His outside is bigger, so why wouldn't the inside be bigger? I mean, it's common logic. A
Yeah.
5-year-old could tell you that.
Right. So that's I think that's one of the dangers of looking at data without enough to go around it. And you talk to your doctor, and your doctor's so busy seeing the 150 patients a day he has to see to keep his clinic afloat that he's not looking at the whole picture. So they just look down at the numbers and they say, "Wow, your glucose is over 100, your triglycerides are at 106, or whatever, and then you've got diabetes. You may
That's
not have
why I broke
diabetes."
up with my doctor.
Or worse yet, they look at you and they say, "Well, your glucose is at 99, your ALT and your AST aren't off the charts, and your triglycerides are under 4,000 or whatever, they're under 129, and they never check to see what your insulin is like. They never check to see that your insulin level is like crushing at 8, 7, or 8 millimolars instead of 6. And so you're in a heightened insulin or hyperinsulinic state, and therefore you're probably pre-diabetic. What do I say, Karen? I've heard numbers that, and I know you listen to a lot, that you could be pre-diabetic for 10 years before your pancreas finally says, I give up the ghost. And then you're full blown type 2 diabetes.
That's probably me. I probably was. The way I was eating, and at the point that I realized that what I was feeling is diabetic neuropathy, but I didn't find out, that was probably around 2010 or 11, and I didn't get a diabetic diagnosis. until about 2017. But if I was already feeling it in my feet, I'll guarantee you I was already either pre-diabetic, if not full-blown diabetic. But
Absolutely.
again, there we are. I had good insurance where I worked, and because of Obamacare, I couldn't afford the deductibles to go. So thank you, government.
Yeah. Well, I think that, I worked, of course, I was born in a military hospital. I was raised in a military medical system. I spent 20 years using it in the military, and then I ended up having a job in the military medical system as a data analyst. I was in charge of data for our hospital, and all of this, and then starting with this way of life and everything. Thought and said to myself, if I could, now I was elected at one point in time as a state senator. If I got reelected, not that I'm going to, but if I got reelected and I went back into politics, I would carry a flag to push, um, for medical professionals to be required to perform insulin testing at a much earlier age, because our biggest cost, and therefore the biggest cost to taxpayers and the military health system, our biggest cost is the impacts of diabetes. Because that diabetes, leads to the heart disease, the liver disease, obviously, and so many other chronic illnesses. And if we could get our military members to understand what is driving that insulin response, we could cut our military healthcare costs by billions, right? And then if they did it in the general population, right? Practice it with the government population, that captured population of the military, and then apply that in the government and say, every 10 years, we're going to pay for an insulin test, or every 5 years. Or if your BMI does this and your weight does that, you automatically qualify and are directed to have an insulin test, right? And we would hold the medical community liable for not testing insulin. I think it should be considered medical malpractice to not test people who are going on statins and insulin. If you do not test their insulin levels and present them the data that says, here's where we're going to cut your toes, your feet, and your legs off. Here's where you're going to have heart attacks and die. If they don't do that, that medical person is held liable. I think it's that important. I mean, you can figure out your own desire to say, the hell with it. I'm going to drink beer, and I'm going to wash donuts down with beer. That's you. You do your thing. But we don't have to pay for your ignorance if we've given you the opportunity to know what's happening. You know what I mean?
See, that's a great theory, and that's a very noble cause if your intent is to help people, but that's not their intent. The medical community will never go for that because they want repeat customers. They all want us sick. The government wants us sick. They don't want to spend more money on VA healthcare,
Now,
but this
see,
isn't the way they want to solve it.
I'm
If
kind of I'm
they
kind of at a crossroads with that because of a couple of reasons. And I'll try to be brief. Here's my reason to be at crossroads with that. First, I'll say I don't deny there are elements, with powerful elements within the medical community. Let's call it big pharma, people like that, that are have a vested interest in you taking their products. I don't deny that at all. But I believe practitioners in general, on whole, don't want you sick, right?
I don't agree. I don't
That's
agree.
my feeling. I think, like, okay, so I went
People don't
yesterday.
become doctors anymore because they want to help people. They become doctors because they want to make a lot of money. They don't give a shit about people. It's not like if you got a doctor that's maybe over 50 years old, he probably became a doctor because he helps, wants to help. He cares about people. But these 30 and 40 somethings that's come up in the 80s and beyond, No, they don't
Well,
care. They
see,
just wanna make money, and they get more money if they make more money and bring in more customers for their medical group. For whatever medical group that is behind them that their clinic belongs to. Like here where I'm at in Southern Illinois, it's Southern Illinois Healthcare, and you can't find a doctor within 100 miles unless you go to another state that's not affiliated with SIH. So it's a monopoly, and that's their angle. It's not because they want to help people. And I think you would never get anything like that to pass because the lobbyists would stamp on that before you could even blink.
well, okay, so I have to talk from my personal experience. I know some young doctors who personally worked for me in my ice cream store and worked for me when I was a senator and this, that, and other. And their intentions are not, and their motivation was not money. Now, what I believe that yes, there's an economic aspect to it, but I believe that not all doctors like that. What I do believe, what I do know for a fact is the entities surrounding medical professionals like AMA, insurance companies, all that, they create this monster for the struggle. I absolutely agree and understand and agree with you. But I believe the individual doctors, by and large, would go to another model if they could still practice money and still be profitable, but not have to push medicine. Because you saw just recently the FDA backed off these alternative treatments that they had for the pandemic disease, right?
Well,
And
yeah,
so,
because that whole thing was a scam, but we're not going to go there.
right. But the idea, what I'm trying to say is, I think a lot of doctors aren't allowed by their governing bodies. So
Yes,
it isn't that the doctor doesn't want to, it's they go to jail. They lose their house, their livelihood if they don't use what they call the standard practice, right? Standard practice of care.
but there's
And
other things too. Here's something I'll give you an example of. It's no secret. I mean, I'm sure everybody doesn't know, but a lot of people in my carnivore community know that I use medical marijuana. It helps keep me off opioids. It does relieve some of the discomfort in my bad knee. So, when I went to my doctor with a legitimate reason, a qualifying condition for my state, um, no matter how much my doctor agreed with me and wanted to sign my paper so I could get my state of Illinois medical marijuana card, he
mhm.
was not allowed because SIH does not allow any of their doctors to sign that piece of paper. So I had to do some digging and finally found a person at an unaffiliated clinic that signed it for me.
Oh, and again, I worked with the medical mafia, okay, long before Obamacare, right? Or right before Obamacare. So in 2008, when I got elected, I came up with this idea. So I'm a big Second Amendment feller, right?
Mhm.
And and so I carried and supported that type of legislation. And I got a thought one day: how is it that I can go to another state with my concealed carry back when you had to have all that stuff? Not in Illinois, you can't do anything. But in other states, right? Um, I could take my concealed carry permit and my weapon into another state, find myself under duress, protect myself, and be compliant, right? Legally compliant, regardless of the outcome of protecting myself, right?
Mhm.
But I couldn't use my medical insurance in the same way going across state lines. So
Right.
I knew it was a tough thing. I knew it was a nut that I was not smart enough to break. Okay. I knew that. But I said, what could I do? Sitting in the position I enjoyed. I said, what I could do is the same thing we did to get concealed weapons reciprocity, right? So to have my concealed carry in Nebraska accepted in Kansas and Wyoming and all those things, right? what we did is the attorney general and the state police and all the people work together and say, hey, are your rules and your training and your understanding and your documentation consistent with what ours is? If it was, we had reciprocity, right? So I said, what if we did the same thing with medical? Because see, what happens is, most people don't know this. Every single state is a silo, different silos of medical rules. In the state of Nebraska at that time, it was required that there were 27 mandatory things you had to cover to uh, sell insurance in Nebraska. In New Jersey, there were 72 things you had to cover to sell insurance in New Jersey. So Blue Cross Blue Shield of Nebraska looks a lot different than Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey.
And what's the
Yeah.
disparity between the two?
Well, again, the
Nebraska's
law.
red, New Jersey's blue. Pretty simple.
Well, the thing is, business dominated, right? So what happens is, I said, well, what about Iowa? Iowa's a lot like Nebraska, and why can't we have reciprocity with Iowa or Kansas or South Dakota? And so anyway, I carried this bill to say, all I wanted to do was say, if the director of insurance and the attorney general of our state wanted to work with the attorney general and the right people in another state, I was giving them the authority to have the conversation. So the carrot and the stick, instead of you
Mhm.
coming to me and say, hey, I want to get together and work on this, I'm going to let you go ahead and have the authority to talk about it and engage and see what you could do. Because here's the problem. When let's say you're a parent and you have a child who has a pediatric carcinoma that requires an amputation, right? That child will need upwards of uh, 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 two
Prosthetic?
fittings a year, prosthetics. Thank you. Two prosthetics a year, right? And they're very expensive. And
Right.
the problem
They
is,
have to have them because they are growing.
right. So the challenge is, when you want to have insurance that covers it, it's very expensive because you have a limited pool of people to spread the costs. But if I could do that over, let's just say we wanted to have insurance across state lines that was for pediatric issues, and therefore you get a bigger pool. So why don't you talk about pediatric ones? And that was the genesis for my legislation. You know, it's funny, little old backwards first year senator trying to carry that. I had
Did you
every
get it
major
passed?
insurance. What? Oh gosh, no. At the committee hearing, I got it into committee. At the hearing, it was heard, and at that hearing, that room was packed by attorneys for insurance companies and the medical community, and they all came in and they poo-pooed my legislation. I mean, they beat me like a redheaded stepchild, right? And that's the same year President Obama put in the thing for the Obamacare, right? So all I was doing was saying, give give states and insurance companies the opportunity to discuss, and they poo-pooed it, but they spent billions to bring in this Obamacare. And I was like, you guys, I just can't deal with you. But the idea, that's where I got this idea. And like Graham is saying, like you said, doctors and medical organizations, the smaller ones, they are browbeat into submission to chasing that dollar, right? And not
Right.
for and they hide behind the petticoats of standard of care. So I think by and large, overall, the intention of medical providers is good. I think the uh, aggressive to evil aspects of the medical profession are dominated and discolored by the corporate entities the providers have to work under, right? And we all can have our differences of opinions. They end up in the same place. I believe doctors should be culpable for your type 2 diabetes if they never tested your insulin 5 years beforehand. The evidence is overwhelming. You didn't get diabetes on that blood test that said your glucose was over 129 on a regular basis, right? You've had
Right.
it for a long time and you had a degradation to your health because of that, and you were more expensive. So if you really wanted to be all that Obamacare or all that everything said to be, you would run an insulin test, do an insulin assay well before the type 2 diabetes. Now, if the patient is a numbskull and continues to feed their face with gravy covered biscuits and honey, well, I can't help you there. That's another problem. But at least you could say you were full, like on this little bottle. Do not take the medication, could cause drowsiness, right? I'm under I am under culpability now. They told me they do it here. Why don't they do that on a box of Cheerios? This can kill you. Well, we know why.
Well, now there's two reasons.
Yeah.
It's not just the sugar, it's the glyphosate that they've been spraying on it now that is in everything.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
It's in
Yep. Yep. And
everything.
I think what Dr. Barry said with Dr. Bickman, the two biggest fear is glyphosates and microplastics.
Yeah.
Yep. 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 That's it's a lot to ask the body to deal with, you know. Hello, Marvin Malley from East Texas. How you doing, brother? Brother, you had some rough weather out there yesterday, the day before. Came through here last night. Big winds, lots of rain.
Yeah, we
That
had
was
a little touch of it, but the worst part of it stayed down there by you. We just got rain. We didn't really even get thunderstorms. It was just heavy rain mostly.
I drove through your neck of the woods there, Karen. Let's see, I drove through your neck of the woods on Sunday.
And where were you going?
I left Omaha and I drove from Omaha here to North Alabama. So my route is I drive down I-29 to Kansas City, then I go across on 70 to
70 to
St. Louis
57.
to
Well, that
57,
it turns into 64.
and I go to
They're all on the
64.
same bridge. You come across and then you take 64 to 57 and
I go down to Paducah, and then
down to 24 and then 24 to Paducah and
yep,
then Paducah to Nashville and then you get 65 out of Nashville. Yeah, I'm familiar.
yeah, yeah.
I used to
So
drive a lot.
yeah, you did the car the transport car thing, or the what do you call that, wide load?
Oh no, that wasn't me. I just chased baseball players.
Oh,
I would drive
okay,
I would drive all over to see baseball games.
okay. So yeah, so anyway, I drove right through Southern Illinois, and I got to be honest with you, I plan my trips to be in Illinois as little as possible. I don't buy my gas there. I don't buy my food there. I do as little as I can for the Communist Republic of Illinois. Um, but
Blowjob trickster.
my wife is from there. That's where I met her when I was at school up in Chanute Air Force Base in the Champaign-Urbana area.
Is that where she's from? That area?
Well, that's where her daddy retired. Her mom was from that area, and we used to go there quite frequently. But now I just drive through. And next week, my wife is going to Mount Vernon.
Yeah, see, since you're going there, I'm going to give you this little interesting tidbit about Illinois. Just as a
Yeah.
state, I don't like it here. I don't like the government here. In fact, probably by the fall, I'm not going to be living here. I'm going to move with my granddaughter's dad and his wife to Missouri just to get the hell out of here. But Illinois, if you now you said you were in Champaign, so when you run 57 from Champaign down to here, if
Yep.
you've noticed, you can see the significant difference where the terrain
Oh yeah.
changes.
Oh yeah.
And that's from the glaciers. The
Right.
glaciers came down and they scraped all its topsoil. That's why Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, we have that beautiful black, rich soil because all
Oh,
the
yeah.
gunk got scraped off the top. But when you get around that Salem, Kilmundy, Mount Vernon area, that's where they stopped. And
Well,
then you go from where you're going south from Mount Vernon, it's a pretty area, especially when you get down into the Shawnee Forest in southeastern Illinois. There's a lot of swampy stuff. We have a lot of cypress trees.
yeah,
There's some of the most northern cypress trees.
yeah. I was actually stationed in Belleville, Illinois.
Scott,
Yeah, Scott Air Force Base, and I was stationed there for a couple of years. So I went to Rantoul, Champaign, Urbana
yeah,
area for 2 tours, and then I did a tour down in East St. Louis, Scott Air Force Base. And with the in-laws living in the Champaign, Urbana area, I have traversed that area quite
hmm
a bit. They have some great deer hunting in southern Illinois,
yep.
but I saw a lot of them on the side of the road dead. Um,
That's because we have too many, and a lot of them. I don't think it's quite so bad now, but like 10 years ago, they had a lot of problem with that chronic wasting disease in the
Yes, they
deer.
did. Yes, they did. But
I think it's
yeah,
getting better because they're allowing more permits now,
right.
so there's more harvesting done.
Yep. I again, I had a chance to be down there. Now, I think the state looks lovely. I like most of the aspects of the state. It's just the people running it are somewhat suspect. But I mean, I went to look at gas up toward the St. Louis area, and all that was like
Yeah.
375 to 385 a gallon.
You go just south of there and it's not bad. I mean, go 40 miles south of St. Louis County in
Yeah,
Missouri and it's lower than it is here. But down here, it's not so bad. I think the last price I saw was like 319 or something.
yeah,
But I haven't been
324
out
when I
in a
drove through.
I haven't been out in about a week, so I don't know where it's at exactly. But yeah,
Here in
when you
Alabama,
turn
here in Alabama, it's
south,
299.
yeah, when you turn it as you go south from here, once you cross into Kentucky
Right.
on 24, there's a pilot there, and they're always lower than everybody,
Exit 3.
everybody around.
Yeah, we
Um,
we we plan exit 3 on all our stops, and I
yeah,
stayed at a Comfort Inn on exit 2, and then I ate at Rafferty's at exit 3. I mean, I know my exits going back and forth, we've done it so much, but, yeah, but I was just bringing it up to you that I had driven through, Illinois this past week twice, and, on the way out and on the way back, and I'm
well,
glad to be home.
next time you go that way, when you turn south from Mount Vernon on I-57, and you go about 30 miles, I-57 is exit, well, 64 is exit 95. If you go 30 miles, exit 65 is West Frankfort. And the very next one, Johnson City, exit 59, you're about as the crow flies 8 miles from me,
Oh,
straight
nice.
east. Yeah, when you go by Johnson City, it's just about 8 miles straight east of me.
It's nice. Well, I know that I'll be going to Carnivore Kips. Right now, the plan is still I'm going to go to Carnivore Kips on next in 2 weeks, Saturday. So the 6th
I
of
wanted to, but I just don't think I'm gonna be. See, I have to drive all this by myself, and
yeah,
it's not fun anymore to drive those long distances at this
I know.
age alone. And I don't have anybody anymore really to call. I'm just on my own. So
Right.
I have to be concerned with where I go and what I do. And the other thing is I've got a concert that I'm going to in Nashville
Oh,
on May 11th, I think it is. So I'm gonna have to forego Kip's barbecue.
well, you might have to meet up with my metamorphosis or someone. But we talked about doing a carnivore meetup in late May, and Christy from Meeting Wellness was interested in flying out from California and do a Nashville carnivore meetup.
See, I was talking about that. I even mentioned that to Carrie when they went to film Dr. Barry, but he said they were in such a hurry and his schedule
Yeah.
was so tight that they weren't going to have time to do anything but set up, film, and go.
Yeah,
So,
I think if we wanna do a meetup, like, I'd go if they had one in Nashville, I would go. That's only 90 minutes for me. Um, So I know that my metamorphosis, someone say Christy, at my metamorphosis had talked about trying to maybe put together one in the early summer or late summer so that the other Christy from Meeting Wellness would be able to get off because she's a teacher, so she'd have to do it sometime in that summer time frame.
Right.
Yeah, I think a Nashville meetup would be well attended because Carnivore Kip is 5 hours south of me, so it'd be 6.5 hours for our southern brother to make it up, right? And if you went, I think Who's Your Carnivore could make it from
He's
Indiana
in
to there.
southern Indiana, or kind of south central Indiana. So
Yeah,
yeah, there's a couple I think in Indiana that aren't too far,
right.
not all the way up in the Chicago burbs.
Yeah. So if you're talking about, let's see, 500 miles is 8 hours of driving for the average human being with breaks and stuff like that. And that's
Hmm.
pretty much a little too far for a lot of us. But anybody within about 350 miles, 400, they probably would want to. And then, if the stars align and the influences wanted to come by, fine. But I think we'd have to do it just like this channel. We do organically what we do for us, and other people can pile in and other people can come along, but I don't think I would hold my breath for Dr. Barry or any one of the other luminaries.
I wouldn't hold my breath, but also if we picked a spot that was close enough nearby to where he lives,
Hmm.
that I think that he would make an appearance if it was at all possible in his schedule. I think if he
Absolutely.
didn't have something already previously, I think he would. I really do.
I'm in violent agreement with you, and it'd be so good to do something like that. To I think a meetup would be really interesting to do. Let's say October, the end of September and or early October, for the purpose of recommitting prior to the season of eating.
Right. And
You
that's
know,
one thing that stalled me is I didn't backslide. I didn't go off carnivore, so to speak,
right?
but I kind of didn't work quite as hard at it during the holidays. I had a few more potatoes, but I didn't eat anything horrible. I still have had no sugar and I
Right.
still ate no bread, with the exception of I do eat the one biscuit on the occasions I go to Red Lobster. But,
Well, I
you
went.
know,
I didn't go off the reservation. I
mm-mm.
didn't go off the wagon. I left the planet. I went in for a penny, in for 152 pounds. I was all the way out. I washed down my fruit cake with eggnog, and then I chased it with a couple of chocolate chip cookies and maybe and maybe some
You
rum.
could keep that out, no. See, I'm
Yeah, I
still
didn't.
motivated, and here's why. If you notice I keep doing this, it's because when I started coming on here and talking to you, I was so embarrassed because my neck was so huge and I had this big double chin hanging down here.
Almost like a
And I
goiter.
was embarrassed to say, and I look at myself and I'm like, "Where's my chin?" It looks different. And I'm gonna show you this too because we're kinda talking about it. I
Yeah,
finally figured out this big hangy skin stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And what that is this is lean up here, and this is all just where the fat has finally separated itself from the good stuff, and it's kinda just sitting here like bags of trash waiting to be taken out when I'm in autophagy. That's how
Absolutely.
I look at it.
So the whole idea is just like you're saying, from my understanding is when we go into our periods of fasting, whether it's overnight or intentional missing a meal, OMAD, whatever we're doing, um, the body does take from spots and it takes from the extremities. You know how the body likes to protect the body first and lets extremities change first. So again, like I said, my arms I don't have flab and I have definition. I got a little flab maybe here, but I don't know. I can pinch it here, right? But the idea is um, you're right. That subcutaneous fat is not the unhealthy fat. The unhealthy fat is the one that's inside our muscles and around our organs and
And
visceral.
that's the other place where I have seen a massive difference is in my belly.
Yep.
It's so
And
much
so,
smaller, and that's the fat that really needs to go away, like what you were saying. This and I've been watching this. This is getting smaller, it's going back and back, and it used to be this was all solid, and now this is a big hangy pouch of fat too. And I think this is I realized through this that all these other times, like I've said before, I've lost over 100 pounds twice before,
okay.
and in that 50 to 80 range, probably a half a dozen times in my life, but
Mhm.
it never looked like this. I never looked like this. I was just smaller, but it was all solid because it all was still full of water. It was all still full of inflammation, and I
Right.
could never see this underneath. This was there, but it wasn't visible because it was hidden by all the stuff that was still bad.
Right.
Just
I
because
saw a
the
gentleman.
scale says less, it doesn't mean you're healthier.
Right, right. I had an uncle who unfortunately was a raging alcoholic. He wouldn't say he was because he only drank beer. He couldn't be an alcoholic on beer.
Most of them
But
never do.
and when I was a young teenager, he said, "Yeah, go ahead, hit me in the gut." And his gut was just solid. It was all visceral fat. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, there's a gentleman out there, I see his short on, YouTube on occasion, and he lost a massive amount of weight, you know? He had such a large abdomen that his abdomen went down to his mid-thigh, you know what I mean? The fat around his pubic
Wow.
area, he real big fat. So now he's like, "I'm like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I have the muscles." And he does it, and then he grabs the skin around his belly and he
Mhm.
pulls it out like this far. And he says,
Right.
"I'd rather have this skin and be in this health than be what I was before." You know what I mean? And that's a
Right.
major mental shift. I heard of a woman not too long ago, maybe in the last 6 months, which in my mind isn't long ago. Um, she was very upset with the weight she lost because before she was at best Rubenesque, you know what I mean? Uh, uh,
Yeah.
but she was firm and fluffy, right? And she lost a
Right.
lot of weight, and now she was,
That's how I
um,
was,
and she was
even when I
very,
lost weight.
very disappointed in that extra skin and the sag. And she says, "I'm eating, I'm getting big again. I can't stand it to look like this," right? And I thought,
You do
'cause you're
you,
more
sweetheart.
patient. That's right. That's
But
right.
I can see that this is eventually because if I look at my bicep, I
Mhm.
didn't have this before. I
Right.
mean, I'm a sick gonna be 67 in July, so I'm no bodybuilder, but I mean, I've got some definition now, and this wasn't here before. And it's because all the fat's down here. But
Well, I
so
think
far, luckily, I'm not noticed I have these pockets, but it seems like as the fat goes away,
it gets
it
thinner and
seems
thinner.
like the skin is coming back with it.
Mhm.
So I am not although the one place that I did notice some scaggy God, I can't talk. Saggy skin is on the bottom of my butt cheeks.
Yep. Well, here's the dealio. A lot of people don't know this, and you maybe know this, and I apologize if I'm being repetitive, but your body turns over protein every day, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't know if you knew that for the average person, they're turning over 300 grams of protein a day.
You have to just to walk around. Your muscles require
Well, it's not just that; it's a programmed death of cells. So, like in your
well,
body,
yeah.
at your age, right? You
Mhm.
know, there's nothing you can see except for your eyes, and you can't see your kidneys and some of your nerves, but part of your eyes, some of your nerves, and your kidneys, right, are the only things you were born with. Your ear,
Right.
right here, this ear of mine,
That grew
I did not.
later.
It's all completely been replaced by new cells. All
Oh,
this,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
all this,
Anything that's
yeah,
cartilage and skin the
Yeah.
softer tissue. Dr. Barry said that. He said your skin will completely replace itself about every 3 to 4 months.
Your stomach replaces itself in the intestines every 3 days. Your
Wow.
the slowest regenerative part of your body that does regenerate are the muscles between your rib, the intercostal muscles, and those take 17 years to be completely revitalized, right? So,
Right.
you know, all of that going on. So they call it this way. The model kind of works like a left to right protein that you bring in that you eat. 60 to 100 to 120, 200 grams protein that you eat, whatever your requirement is, right? So you get that 60 plus grams a day. But if you go north to south, up to down, your body is flipping 300 grams of protein. So 60 to 300, that's like a five-fold amount, right? And the
Right.
reason you need, my understanding, the reason you need the 60 grams the 60 grams is to get the 18 grams of essential amino acids. The 9 essential amino acids your body cannot make. The other ones your body can make all. They can do all they need to do. It unzips things and makes things. And the chemistry
Mhm.
set works wonderfully. But your body reutilizes a lot of things. So you need to eat 60 to 100 to give you what you need over that 300. So when you're in autophagy and your turnover is increased, right? You have a
Mhm.
macroautophagy, microautophagy, you have mitochondrial autophagy going on. All those things are going on, and it says, I need this thing from the store to do what I need to do. Your body will utilize your skin as a storehouse. And you can see this if you ever get visually confused, and I don't recommend this for enjoyment, I only for education. You do not see any of the people who survived the concentration camps with saggy skin
Right.
because their bodies catabolized that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when people have rapid weight loss, they have weight loss that's so fast. The autophagy aspect to consuming the readily available cartilage and proteins and collagen things, and not cartilage but collagen, well, it just
Can't
doesn't go
keep
at the
up.
same rate. That's right. That's right. So just interesting stuff to have stuck in the brain pan as I spend hours every day
That's
researching
why
it.
you see the people like, do watch the TV show My 600-Pound Life. I
Right.
used to watch it to make myself look at those people to keep me from getting there, was
Right.
my purpose. I was like, "Man, you don't wanna be like you don't wanna get there." Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was halfway there. And I can't imagine. I still can't wrap my head around how somebody can let themselves get that big, but it happens. Look at Bill. I mean, in Alaska, he didn't do that to himself on purpose. It just kind of happened to him and didn't have the initiative to, or the knowledge or the will or whatever he was lacking to fix it. It didn't happen.
Well, I
And
think that I think like most complex things in our lives, there's a layer or a component you could say of your behavior. Then there's a layer of the emotional aspects, there's a layer of learning, there's a layer of environmental type things. And also then you underneath all of that is the idea of the um hormonal signaling that's dysfunctional over time. I don't think people sit there and say, generally speaking, I think today I'll try to get to be another 100 pounds this month, right? There are people who do
right,
that, and there are mental conditions, and I also know there are people who like to be feeders, right? So they get married up with someone who's an eater, and all they want to do is feed this person, and they don't care
yeah,
how big they get, and they will take care of them, and they will clean them, and they will do all the things that you would probably in the general population not find
people
pleasant.
make money off the internet doing that. what are they
Yeah.
called? They got a name. It's not it's not feeders. They call them something else, but it's people and they like their fans ask them to eat some certain thing and then they do it on camera and that's how they make a living.
No, I meant the for lack of a better word, the spousal unit. Oh,
Right, and
I
but the
take care of
people that
me.
they're fans, the people that watch
Yes.
them, a lot of the people are like that, and if they could find a person and a lot of times they hook up and you see that on that My 600-Pound Life. Some of
Mm.
those people end up with partners, and they're exactly those kind of people that you described.
So I would say under the bell curve distribution, they don't fall too close to the center line, you know? And I don't want to disparage anybody, but I will say this. I used to think the super obese people were like, lazy or whatever. But now I know better, having gone through part of it myself. When the ghrelin and the leptin and the this and the that aren't working well, when you have significant trauma in your life, whatever the triggers are, it's amazing. And you've probably heard this many times. People will say, "Oh, I understand it when you get hooked on oxycodone. I understand it when you get hooked on even alcohol or cigarettes, right?" But all of a sudden, all the compassion leaves if they're hooked on food, right? And it's like, dude, uh, don't let your ignorance be the reason you denigrate a person, right?
But you know what's really screwed up about that? And this is what's always been my thought.
Hmm.
All those other things that people have addictions, drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, the list goes on and on.
Right, right,
You don't have to have any of those
right.
things.
Oh yeah,
You
I
don't
agree.
need those to survive. You've got to have food. So that's like taking the alcoholic to the bar and saying, okay, here's 2 shot
Have a
glasses
little.
full of beer, but that's all you can have.
Yeah. Oh,
You can't have no more.
I'm in violent agreement, but I'm saying, how do we as a society um, change the idea to sit and say that person who we're seeing in the scooter at the big box store, right? Who is morbidly, grossly obese? Let's say they're no less than 500 pounds, right?
Right?
We shouldn't see those people as lazy, but instead say these are people who are victims to hormonal imbalances, ma who knows what went on in their life and what they're trying to eat themselves. I'm an emotional eater. I'm a stress eater,
Mhm.
you know?
Me
I've
too.
had my fair share of bad breaks, you know? Um, there are people out there that the driving force is more than adequate. And maybe what they need, and I try to do that here in what I do, is maybe what they need is a platform to be heard and valued for who they are, right?
I
I
think also a lot of it is monetary because I'll bet
Yeah.
you that most of those people that you see going around the scooter in the store are low income.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't
And
doubt it.
that's why, because the foods that they can afford to buy are the ones that are the worst for you.
Isn't it amazing that healthy fat like tallow and duck fat, a little jar of duck fat costs you $7 to $12. A little bit of a tallow or beef fat you can't even get at the butcher because like the doctors, they made it almost illegal to get fat, right? I mean, isn't it amazing that the stuff that's good for you, healthy for you, better for you, is so much more expensive? And then we're talking low on the hog stuff,
Just look
right?
at people. How many rich people do you see that are fat? Besides Chris Christie and JB Pritzker.
I've seen quite a number in my world, but I know what you're getting at, you know? I know what you're getting at.
Not very many. There's
Um,
some,
here's
but
one for
not
you.
very many, and if they are, it's because they're not spending the money to do the things the doctors, the diets, the fancy exercise room, the surgeries, the Botox, the liposuction, the everything that they can afford to do that all of us can't afford to do. So they could eat a little worse and they got the money to fix it. We don't. We just get fat.
Well, here's the other bit. How many of us are from the Clean Plate Club? We're raised in the Clean Plate Club,
Yeah.
right?
Some
So
kid in Africa's starving, you eat all your food.
my mom had it better. My mom never really said that. My mom just backhanded me, and then she gave my food to my brothers. So you learn real quick. But the idea being a part of that clean plate, I still to this day. So I am I am fortunate to be retired, fortunate to be able to, you know, afford my food. But when we go out to eat, I feel compelled if I'm at a let's say I go to a place that has a buffet, I feel compelled to eat my $12 worth of food, right?
Right?
And so I can't go to the buffet because even if it's pork chops, I'm going to eat $12 worth of pork or $24 worth of pork chops, right? And I don't feel well. So it's this whole idea that there are some deep seated mental routines and
Mhm.
habits that have to get un or disconnected, unhooked, parked somewhere else, referred to, referenced, and cataloged as dangerous, and then
See, and
I can move on.
I have a double whammy because I was raised by 2 people that were married for 17 years before they adopted me, so they're on the totally next generation than all of my friends my age. Like, my parents were close to 20 years older than most of my friends' parents.
Right.
They were teenagers during the Depression. And so when you're raised by people that lived through something like that,
Yep.
you don't waste anything. I don't care if it's food, if it's a broken toy, if it's a empty can. Keep that shit because you can repurpose it. You don't
Right.
throw nothing away.
Well, but in the same token, I bet you your diet was much more varied than your friends who were living off of just lean meats and lean fishes and Wonder Bread, and you're having to eat pig knuckles.
Yeah, my mom would be creative. The advantage I had with that exactly was Uncle Bud that I told you about earlier.
Right?
Uncle Bud owned a market. He was a butcher and he was married to my mom's sister. So my mom got meat at his price.
Right.
He sold us, so we did eat steak. She didn't get fancy, but we did have sirloin steak when other people were eating hamburger.
Right.
And we had the less fat hamburger. We had the 90% when other people had the 70% and things like that. So, yeah, Uncle Bud was a big help with my meat diet when I was a kid because he sold it to his sister-in-law cheap.
Well, I can remember when I was young, my dad was stationed in Germany for 4 years. And then when I was in the military, I spent almost 12 years there myself, right? And the last three I spent married to my wife. And but in most intervening years, I remember seeing these German people. They're eating lots of pork products, lots of bratwurst, and lots of those types of things, and had a really high fat diet. I mean, just a high fat diet. And so most of the German people were younger people were in great shape. But here's what I noticed: a lot of these older German people, they were not lookers. They were more like battleship. The women were built like battleships, right? And we used to make a little bit of fun about them. They had cankles, I remember this one little
Yeah.
lady. I'd see her each morning moving a wheelbarrow full of manure, and she'd be pushing it over a cobblestone street up an incline. She'd have her smock on, and she'd be leaning all the way into it, little tiny lady, pushing 80 pounds of manure in this thing, and it was a wooden wheel that had a piece off of it, and you go clunk. And she liked it because it gave
Yeah.
her a break, right? Now her ankles were about that big around, and they went all the way up to her thighs. They went to her backside. They went to her head, up to her shoulders. It stayed the same tube, and then went down to her head, and that was it, right? So she was not a looker by any means, but she was buck wild strong. Her skin didn't tear. She was sharp as a tack, right? So I got this beginning of a philosophical view of when I'm older, I want to be buck wild strong, sharp as a tack. my skin not tearing when I go buy something because
Yeah.
I eat the proper amounts of fats, I get the proper amount of protein, I get the proper amount of exercise, right? And you know what? I do not have to be looking like Tom Selleck when I'm 80. I'll be happy to be looking like Scotty P and able to, poke you in the eye if I have to, right? But the idea being is this false narrative of, hey, you're 70 and you're not sexy and slim and you don't look like Jane Fonda. Well, that's fine. It's okay. I'd rather be functionally strong, functionally capable, and over all of that. But those old German people, the things they did, they ate a regular breakfast, big lunch, small dinner, and they walked almost every day after their meals for 10 to 20 minutes, a little walk and stroll. And on the weekends, they do a 5 to 10 kilometer walk, and they were strong and capable. And you know what? That's where I want to be. And if bratwurst is right there in the middle of my okay wheel. You know, I like some bratwurst,
And
and
see, I think
liverwurst.
some of that, a lot of that stature that those people have is just something that's evolved genetically over time because they had to be that way to survive. They had to
Oh, yeah.
be strong and they had to be it's just like this is going to sound really weird, but I kind of have a thing for shoes, not like fancy wearing shoes like when I'm watching the NCAA tournament, the guys with their different shoes and the way their feet look in a shoe. It's not a foot fetish. It's got to have the shoe, but it's about the way the shoe and the sock looks. I don't know. I think it goes back. I can tell you kind of where it goes back to when I was a little bitty kid. I had a remember Color Forms, the toy
Yeah.
little plastic things and you'd stick them and you could re-stick them and make a scene. Well, I had one that was a weather. It was a little weather kid and he had a yellow slicker and an umbrella, but this kid had shoes and socks and boots and you could put it and I don't know, I got this thing about the way shoes and socks look. But I can look at the difference in the races between a person that's black and a person that's white, and it's not anything about that. It's the way that their bodies are that they're just genetically different. Their foot structure is different, the bone structure. Their heel protrudes farther than a Caucasian person because that's just the way we're made. The same way their skin is a different color and their foot is shaped different. And I can see that in the shoes. I can look at a guy's foot and tell you what color his skin is by looking at his foot in the shoe. Yeah, I don't know,
Well,
it's a weird thing, but
well, I tell you,
that's
okay, you're
all
not
those little
weird.
like the little old lady with the cankles. Maybe her cankles are there because she needed that bulk on her legs to push the damn wheelbarrow, over time. And that's just how we've all genetically evolved. The people that were evolved from Africa, they were more runners and you know, leaner and things like that. And that's why their bones in their feet evolved in a different way than somebody that is in a cold climate and has, maybe they're fatter, like Eskimos. Eskimos, you don't see thin, skinny Eskimos, but they need, and it's not anything against them. It's just that because of their environment, their climate,
Right.
their body adapts to keeping more fat and on them so that they don't lose heat as easy. In the
Well,
same respect, the people near the equator usually are thinner. You don't see fat people coming from around the equator as a
I
general
have
rule
my own
unless they've
theory
been
on that.
transplanted.
I have my own theory on it. I think when you're in an equatorial region, food is more available, right?
Yes,
Everywhere. And as you get further away from the equator, food is more scarce. And that's why
yes.
Caucasian people develop the ability, there's a lot of paperwork on this. The Caucasian develop the ability to store adipose tissue in a healthy way
Hmm.
because people from India, all Pakistan, all the like United Arab Emirates, and the Southwest
Hmm.
Asia, if they put on 15 pounds of fat, they can be full-blown type 2 diabetics, where a Caucasian from Duluth can put on 100 pounds and not be a type 2 diabetic, right?
Right.
It's the ability of the body adjusting. Because if you put on 15 pounds of adipose or visceral fat and you live in an equatorial region, there's just something wrong because you have food available all the time. Why are you having to store it, right? The other
Right.
thing, when you, like you say, you look at melanin in the skin. The further north you get, the less melanin. The more you try to get the vitamin D versus the other way around. So in Minnesota, there's a huge, I can't say, there's a huge problem brewing. And what it is you have that large group of Ethiopian and Somalian people.
Somalians.
Okay. Did you know that rickets is on the rise like crazy there? So here's what happens is you move to a place you can get no sunlight, no vitamin D, and you have a social a norm that makes you cover your skin other than your eyes for the ladies.
Mhm.
They get no sun and they cover their skin and their kids are so sick, right?
Yep.
And so this is going to be a significant social problem in the coming year, particularly for Canada, that took a lot of these people in from the equatorial
And you're
region.
gonna see it in Michigan too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Michigan's another place where with a high Muslim population where they dress like that and come
Just no,
from
no,
those areas where yeah, I can see that being next on the list
and you're
is
talking rickets. That's
Michigan.
something you can cure with milk and a little sunshine, right? Well,
Yeah.
anyway, there are, like you said, there are differences in the body, and so. But when you talked about feet, as a young man, I had heard, when I was busy trying to catch a wife, and my mom knew that I was not going to be a very successful hunter of women, so she spent the time to teach me how to cook and clean and sew and do all those things, and my wife is the recipient of that benefit. But um, I learned that women will look at a man's fingernails and his feet before they look at almost anything else. Number one thing that women will look at, number one and two, will be fingernails and feet. And I thought that was such a bizarre thing.
That probably used to be true. I think that's probably not so true anymore because so many men are foo-foo now and they go have manicures and but if you find one that doesn't look like that, then you really have a prize because that means he works.
Well,
Not
I'm
in
at a
a
disadvantage. I don't have all my digits, so I don't have all my fingernails. So, but
well,
but
we'll
the long
forgive
and
you
short
for
of it is, I
that.
mean, there are differences, and each one of us, I think, though, and I think you were saying this, and in a way, to bring it full circle, is to say, you know, each one of us are individually on our journey. We're individually responsible for as much as we can possibly be. And knowing what works for you, Karen, and what helps you with autophagy and the skin and energy is unique to you. And what works for me, and we can always say the male female age differences and everything, but even amongst women, amongst men, we are responsible for figuring it out for ourselves, don't you think?
Yes. And I'm going to show you one other thing while I'm sitting here. In July of 2022, I slipped on my deck and fell and I broke this shoulder.
Oh,
It wasn't bad. It was a little break around the rotator cuff, but it did serious muscle damage in there. And I lost almost all range of motion. And it was not getting better. I had a lady come here and give me therapy. And so it was almost a year later when I started carnivore. I fell in July of 22, started carnivore June 25th of 23.
right.
And at that time, I could about do this. I could
Right.
reach up to my ear. I could maybe get to here. I could maybe get to my hip in the back, but that's it. Now I can do this. And
Amen.
this has all happened in the last 6 months since carnivore took good hold. My
Well,
bathroom issues are all gone. My gut is finally starting to what I would say normalize
right.
with consistency of texture and timing and all of those things,
Right.
things were just not normal for a long time, to the point
Well,
where I was not going places because I was afraid to be far away from a bathroom.
I get you. I get you. Well, that's. I mean, the vagaries of life. We each have different things. I know we have a friend of ours who's had a lot of problem with a uterine prolapse and all these different things, and I want to scream at them. And they're both her and her husband are type 2 diabetics, and they got all these problems. And I want to tell them, you got to stop the cake and ice cream and goodies and crud, and you need to go with the proper human diet. But I think for me, I suspect, just like with Carnivore Kit, maybe eventually, I know for Carrie from Homestead How, um, you get a little bit more credibility once you're successful. You know what I mean? When people
Right,
come up to you, go, "Wow, Karen, how did you do that?" Well, well, this is what I did. Really? And you go, "Yeah." You show them the blood work. You do the thing. That's when you don't have to have a PhD or an MD. You say, "This is what I did." People go, "I can model that because I see it in front of my eyes." And so that's what I think. If I can get myself and meet that goal of getting to my enlistment weight, people will say, "Darn, you used to be that big, fat-headed, 320
and
pound guy."
you can convey the message really simply without confusing them or making them go, "Ah, you only eat meat. Oh my gosh." Just say, "I quit eating sugar and I quit eating bread."
That's it. I just tell them
Simple.
that's you're
Keep it
absolutely
simple,
right.
stupid.
Well, I always think about when you think about it, in carnivores, like every special interest group, they're their own worst enemies in marketing, and that is crafting the message. And the message is, I stopped eating one third of my macronutrients. I still eat 66% of what I always ate. That's more than half. The only thing I left out was, and I said, like you said, I stopped the sugars. That it? Well, all the things that become sugar too. So potatoes, bread, pasta, rice.
Right.
But you got to start slowly. If you really want to be evangelical with something, you have to craft your message. So, I mean, that's the way I feel about it. Might not be accurate, but Dr. Chafee, I don't think if Dr. Chafee had ever looked like one of us, he'd have 3 million people follow him like Dr. Barry.
Yeah, that's true.
But Um, anyway, so look, we've been on here for almost 2.5 hours, and I really appreciated the opportunity to do a daytime thing. And I really hope I like this slot. I don't know if anybody else will, but I like this slot. I may have to explore it some more, even though I'll have to train up a whole new group of people to come to it. But I
For us that
appreciate you
don't
hanging
have
in.
to work and aren't on a schedule, it's great. Because
Yeah,
the nighttime competes with my primetime TV, and people think that's ridiculous, but I can't help it. I was born in 1957. I grew up I practically was birthed out of a TV. So, that's just the generation that we grew up in, and
right.
TV is important entertainment for me.
Oh,
So,
I totally get it. I totally get it. And I don't watch TV. I do a lot of YouTube stuff. My wife, she does a lot of the TV stuff. But the long and short of the diatribe is I'm going to try to do more of these, and I'll maybe even put an advertisement. But I prefer doing lives over making videos, personally. But I'm not ever probably going to be a what do you call those, uh, financially supported YouTube channels. But that's
right,
not my goal. That's not my goal anyway.
me
So
neither.
we'll
I
we'll,
just
we'll
want to tell my story and hopefully it'll help someone else see that they can do it too.
Right, right, and maybe this will foster accountability as you continue to go past your 1 year, and I go closer to my enlistment date, and I can sit there and say, yeah, I did the 50 pounds, or no, I didn't. You know what I mean? And that victory, I think, will bring an audience as it occurs.
Well, I'm not done yet. I'm not stopping here. 180. Well, my first goal was I wanted to get into the ones by New Year's.
All
Well,
right.
I didn't quite make it. I missed it by 7 pounds.
Hmm.
Okay, well, that's not, I didn't beat myself up over that. I just kept pushing forward and I went, "Okay, I'm going to keep going till I get to the 199." And I got there. It took about 6 weeks longer, but part of that was the holidays and everything I said
Right.
before. Since I've kind of started to buckle down, it's been coming off a little bit quicker. I average that first 4 to 6 months, probably 2 pounds a week easily with no exercise, just from eating. So now that I'm getting where I'm back on track and all of that, it's just a lot better. And I'm happy with the way things are. So I do still have some little immediate goals. I want to get to that 187 because that'll be an even 100 pounds. Then the
Right.
next one, and I find I do good with little small goals like that.
Sure.
You
Sure. Sure.
can't
Sure.
big becomes eventually you think about it and it becomes insurmountable and then you quit. So
Right.
if I keep it to small, so my next one after 187 will be the logical 175 round number. And
Okay.
then after that I want to get to 159 because I can remember when I got pregnant with Rachel in April of 1987, I was 159. And after that I can't remember. I did wanna go in the military as a high when I was in high school,
Yeah.
getting ready because I hung out with all the recruiters and all of that and worked for them, volunteer in their recruiting offices, stamp literature, stuff envelopes.
Right.
There was a lot of perks. We got to go to a lot of air shows and meet the
Ah.
Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels and graduations at Great Lakes, and for a teenage girl, that was quite exciting. But anyway, I was wanting to go in the military, and I probably weighed about 137 pounds at the time at 5'3", and I was too fat. I wouldn't pass the weight. Not then, not in 1973.
Right.
Now they would take somebody at 137 pounds, a
Yeah.
5'3" female, but in 1973 it was no bueno.
Well, the important part is we are now in 2024, and as we progress along, we'll just have to be our own cheerleaders and celebrate those wins.
So I'd say my end goal kind of is that 159.
Right.
And I'm 38 pounds from that. 38 doesn't sound like a too big number. And
Right.
so then I'm going to work towards there. And then when 159 happens, then I'm just going to let it go. What my body does after that is whatever.
Stay on the program, but whatever.
Yes, I'm not talking about let it go going off the food. I'm talking about not worry about a goal, not worry about what I weigh,
Right.
not worry about everything's functioning fine. So I'm going to let my body tell me what my ideal weight is.
Yeah, yeah.
Once I pass 159, I know it's got to be less than that because I'm not 5'3" anymore. I'm barely over 5 foot, which happens more so to women. I guess
Right.
it's the bones, the osteoarthritis, which I have been diagnosed with osteoarthritis. It's pretty bad. So, yeah, I've shrunk almost 2.5 inches probably.
So
So,
so
yeah,
well, let me ask you a technical question. Are you coming into this from your phone?
no, I'm on a laptop.
On a laptop. Okay, okay. I just trying to wonder. Well, that's awesome. Well, I tell you what, Karen, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna sign off here. I appreciate you coming on and spending part of your day with me.
Why did you ask that? Is my quality bad or
No,
oh,
no, I just want to know because I would love to be able to stream just from my phone and not a laptop.
oh, yeah. The laptop just works better for me. I don't
Oh,
like holding the phone. And I don't have a good place to set it on a tripod, so I can set this on my lap.
I have a laptop that's a nice gaming one, but the top broke off from the body, so I have to scrape some nickels together to
My
take
old
it.
one was like that.
I have to take it to the guys at uh, um, the Geek Squad or something and get a new screen attached because I don't want to spend
Mhm.
another $1,200, $1,700 on another laptop. I'd rather spend $300 and get my good one back. But so I can only do things from my desktop. Now I have a really good desktop. Don't get me wrong, but I can't really put that under my arm and go cool places. Like I have a
Right.
I built a pavilion out back with a nice fireplace, and I'd love to do like a fireside chat, you know.
Now see, when
But
I do my outside ones, all the videos except for the very last ones that I've done about my junk journaling, but all my carnivore videos that I've done were outside, and I took one of those big Rubbermaid tubs and I turned it upside down and set my tripod and my phone on there and sat in a chair on the deck because it was pretty scenery out there in the
oh
fall
yeah, absolutely,
and
absolutely,
better than what I had here. But now I've got a place now like this. I'm just sitting in my normal recliner, but to
right.
actually sit here and do a video, I wouldn't want to do a video like in this
There's
position.
my
And like I
recliner,
said before, I was so self-conscious about this that I
right,
would have never done a video with my head bent looking at the screen. I mean, if
right,
I do this, but this is how I used to look, like this.
right.
But
Hey, we all are. That's another amazing thing. Sometimes in our day to day thing, we don't notice the changes, and someone pops in from a month ago. They go, "Whoa, that person's changed." You know what I mean?
see, I
Sometimes,
can see it. I told my friend the other day, I sit here with my feet up, my recliner up, and I look at my legs and they don't look like my legs. I have to keep touching myself uh, because it doesn't feel like it should look like that. It it's not fat anymore. And I've never looked like this for as long as I can remember. And like I said, even when I lost weight before, I didn't lose the water and the inflammation. So it
right,
didn't look like this. I didn't see all this definition. And that's when you were talking about wrists. I make junk journals and I watch a lot of videos with these ladies doing stuff where all you see is their hands.
right.
A lot of them are overweight, some of them are not overweight, but you look at the wrists and it looks like they got a rubber band. There's a roll of fat here and there's a roll of fat here. And I'm
Right.
like, "I have a wrist bone. I got a bone right there.
You know
There's
what?
nothing here. There's no this is skin. There's no fat here."
Yeah.
And it's going away. I used to be like that. I used to have that roll of fat here, but
Well, I
gone.
tell you what. I remember one morning I came out and told my wife. I said, "I have ankle bones."
But
And
yeah,
I
I'm
wake up in
seeing
the
those
morning and I
too.
can see pointy on the inside of my ankles. I have
Mhm.
points. I'm like, "Where did," and I look on the back on the outside, I got a little vein running around my Achilles tendon. I was
Yep.
like, "Where'd that come from? Was that always there?" Of course it was, but
You
just
couldn't see
noticing
it.
those differences.
And feet, that's another thing. I sit here and, like you see men more so when they're barefoot and you can see all the tendons going to each individual toe. My feet were always so fat and swollen that I could see none of that. And now
Right.
I see all of that and I keep staring and touching because I just can't my chest. I feel bone. I feel bones here now.
How about your shoulder blades?
Yeah, kind of. I didn't ever have a lot of back fat. That's not where mine went. Mine is in my thighs, like around my knee. I got a big old droopy thing of fat on the inside of my knee. I'll be happy
Right.
when those are gone. And like I said, I noticed had to scratch my butt this morning and I reached inside my pants and I was like, oh, big handful of skin. It's like, where'd that come from?
So the next thing is to do things to doing a square, what do they call them, chair squats? Stand up, sit down, and build up that
Yeah, those are
glute
hard
muscle.
for me because of my knee.
I understand, but as your inflammation gets better and the fat goes away, that's just something that you might wanna consider because that's adding that muscle mass to our derrieres is
Right.
very important. One, to keep our pants up, but two, to give us strength in our hips, because that's one of the problems for those really really emaciated elderly individuals, whether they're women or men, but particularly women. There's no cushion for the fall, and it doesn't have to be much of a fall to have a hip injury. And when an 80-plus-year-old has a
Mm-mm.
broken hip, that's no good.
I'm lucky when I fell that that was all I broke was that
Right.
shoulder, and it healed. I'm a good healer, and it healed up quickly, but my range of motion never came back until I'd been on carnivore for probably about, I noticed about 3 or 4 months into carnivore, it really started to loosen up, and now in the last 3 or 4 months since, I started June 25th, and now since the 1st of the year, it's really, really become much higher than I can raise my arm. It's not all back. The doctor told me when it first happened, he said, you may never get it all back. I was thinking to myself, like hell, buddy, I'm going to get my range of motion back. I don't give a rat's ass what you say. That's
Well,
my arm.
the thing is if we really deconstruct it, and I was talking about the whole autophagy and protein turnover, but your DNA has a perfect plan of your perfect healthy body.
Right.
And so when you allow that to be transposed, and thinking about it, well, think about this. Remember how I said it takes up to 17 years for those intercostal muscles?
Hmm.
Look at a person who maybe been on carnivore, proper diet, not heavy glycation through sugars and all that, on a proper human diet for 15 years, and see how much they are back. Like arterial. So that's what I'm saying, for my liver and
Hmm.
for my heart and for all sorts of things. Right now, I can never get back. I had some surgery here on my neck. That's why the tendons stick out here. Is
Hmm.
I had surgery and they removed the muscles on the side of my neck. And
I
so
remember you talking about that before.
that's why you don't see it on this side, because this side they're gone, so it's not smooth anymore. But I don't think I'll ever grow those muscles back because they're gone.
I'm happy
But
I have a
everything
neck.
else,
I have a neck. I didn't have one for a long time. Not
no,
that
you
you could
had it. It
see.
was it was buried.
Yeah, under mounds of fat. Ugh,
Well, how about we repurpose that? Say, I had built an excess store of energy on my neck.
no, it was just ugly fat, Scott.
Oh, come
There's no,
on, don't beat yourself
no,
up.
I'm not sugarcoating that stuff anymore because you know how Facebook, if you're on Facebook, it'll pop up every once in a while. Well, 7 years ago, you did this with your, and it was my youngest grandson's baby shower, and he was born in April of 2017, and I can see by my daughter in the picture, she's probably about 7 months along. So this would have been early 17.
Okay,
And I was absolutely huge. I couldn't, it pained me to look at the picture of me sitting at the table with my friend at this baby shower.
right.
It was horrific. I just, I almost have no words. It was horrifying.
Is
And
it
so
is it
now I know if I ever think about eating that stuff again, just go back
is
and
it
look at that
is it
picture.
is it appropriate or proper to say that part of that horrific definition is really saying embarrassment?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, that's the nucleus of it all. You
Yep.
don't want anybody to see, and that's why you go off alone to eat. You don't eat in front of people because you want to make it look like, oh, I don't eat anything. I don't eat that much. I don't know why I'm fat. But you're eating
Genetics.
when,
My parents' fault.
yeah, I'm big boned. Well, you are, but there's a way you can tell. This is how they measure right here is
Uh-huh.
elbow breadth. If you bend your arm at a 90-degree angle, up there you go, and feel those two little knobs on each side of your elbow,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
bone, the width of that bone determines your structure, and it's certain measurements for, tell you if you're big
Yes.
boned or, and I can't remember what
They
mine
do
is.
the same thing with the wrist bones, because there's normally if you can put a caliper on there and you're not all fat, you
Yeah.
push down. And they say if you can close your fingers, your index finger, which is normally your longest finger, if you can close them around or not, and I cannot
I
close. And
can now.
I,
I can now. I can get that thumb about a good almost half inch over my
I'm, a,
middle finger.
well, I'm big
Uh,
handed and I cannot get around it.
this one I can barely touch. My right
Now
wrist I can barely touch.
this one I can't touch because I'm missing half a thumb. But no, this one I still
Yeah,
can't. I still can't do
that's
it.
extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, but I'll
I'm sure
take
your
it.
your thumb didn't leave on its own free will.
Right, right, right. So, all right, Karen, I'm gonna let you go. Maybe we'll
All
see you
right.
later on this week or something.
Good
Okay?
good catching up, buddy.
You bet. You take care. We'll see you around.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all. Graham, if you're still there, bye. I'm out. No, seriously, I'm out.